Of course, this doesn't look like Nietzsche's moustache. This is more of a kind of some type of clown job going on here. So let's talk about Nietzsche's moustache. I've always been fascinated with his moustache, and I've always wanted to know what it meant to Nietzsche and why he had such a big moustache. And so I did some research, and I found this information from Professor Robert Solomon. And he says, he's a Nietzschean scholar, and he delivers some seminars on Nietzsche. And he says that for Nietzsche, the moustache was a kind of mask for Nietzsche, and it meant for him a kind of self-discipline that Nietzsche relates to the military of all things. And so I did some digging around in Nietzsche's actual work because I wanted to find actual quotes where he talks about the moustache. And I found this quote where Nietzsche talks about a moustache and how one can hide behind it and how it relates to the military. So let me read this quote from Nietzsche. Open quote. Knowing one's individuality. We are too prone to forget that in the eyes of people who are seeing us for the first time, we are something quite different from what we consider ourselves to be. Usually, we are nothing more than a single individual trait which leaps to the eye and demonstrates the whole impression we make. Thus, the gentlest and most reasonable of men can, if he wears a large moustache, sit as it were in its shade and feel safe there. He will usually be seen as no more than the appurtenance of a large moustache. That is to say, a military type, easily angered and occasionally violent, and as such he will be treated. Close quote. So we can see there with that quote that Nietzsche is talking about hiding behind this moustache and giving off this kind of impression, this first impression. And he's reminding us that people make these judgments and reduce our whole personality down just to a single feature. And I think that that's very interesting, that he had that big moustache and he had these kind of thoughts and he was able to project a certain image out there to other people while he himself was hiding behind the shade of his moustache, so to speak. And just in regards to the military and the moustache idea, is different figures throughout history actually, shaped their moustache in a certain way to convey their militaristic attitudes. So you had Hitler with a certain moustache, you had Stalin with a certain moustache, you had certain figures who, cut their facial hair in certain ways. And you have, interesting enough, Lincoln, the President Lincoln, he had no moustache, but he had hair everywhere else. So, it's just kind of interesting the different ways different figures want to present themselves with their moustache. And it kind of links to the military a lot of the time, which is kind of interesting. So I hope that you've liked this. And of course, I've enjoyed growing a big moustache. It's nowhere near as impressive as Nietzsche's, obviously. And I've finally just got some wax and I've been able to wax it up a little bit here. It's kind of crazy looking, but I have to get rid of this thing because I have some responsibilities to take care of, or I have to look professional. But isn't that interesting that our idea of what is acceptable, of something that's so natural, even though I have the choice, I can keep this or not, it is still a natural phenomenon. And I still think it's interesting that we don't accept this type of look in professional places. I mean, you might think that's bizarre, but if you really think about it, like throughout history, we've had different ideas of what's acceptable. And in our society, we don't accept having a big moustache. It just looks ridiculous to people. And in a sense, I know, like I look like I'm kind of trying to join a carnival or something like that. But yeah, so I've enjoyed wearing this big moustache anyway, and seeing people's reactions and trying to understand, its effect on other people. And so I think it's an interesting thing to ponder. And I think that's kind of what Nietzsche was going for with that quote, to ponder on how people perceive you when you first meet them, and how one can kind of hide behind that persona, so to speak. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next one.